In this video, I'm going to share with you one of the fastest ways to improve your migraines, but it is also one of the hardest things to do, so keep that in mind. And then I want to share a client case study about Nora so you can apply this understanding to someone that actually did it in their life. Now, if you guys don't know who I am, my name's Dr. Kevin, and I help people with migraines finally get consistent relief before it costs them their career and disconnects them from their family and steals a life that they know they're meant to live. We do this by getting to the root cause of your migraines and fixing it there instead of relying on band-aid solutions that are just treating the pain but keeping the problem around. You see, I suffered with migraines and headaches for 20 plus years, so I really know your pain and what you're going through. But I've also been in remission for years once I got to the actual root cause. So I know what's possible for you too. So let's dive in. So the concept here is raising your floor. And so we also need to understand a second concept, which is raising your ceiling. And what I mean by this is essentially our ceiling is ultimately the life that we want, the goals that we want, or that we set consciously, or maybe we just unconsciously set these goals, but don't actually strive for them. That's your ceiling, that's up here. And then we have our floor, which is lower. And this is basically our bare minimum of standards that we accept in our life. Anything below our floor, like maybe arguing with friends or family members, maybe that's below our floor. Now, it's not always about, sometimes we do go below our floor, and that obviously is not a good thing, but we do have this minimum standard. And when we go below it, it really throws us off because we're unhappy. One, because it's happening, and two, because we're basically breaking our standards that we've set for ourselves. But ultimately, what I want to get out of this talk is how to raise your floor to change your life drastically. Raising your floor, which is your minimum standards that you allow in your life, is probably, no, it's actually the most effective thing that you could do. There's tons of effective things you can do, but we have to remove these dysregulators from our life. We have to raise our floor because right now, you're probably tolerating just way too many things. Your floor is too low. You're tolerating things, whether it's relationships, whether it's work, and just how you're being treated at work, or maybe it's you're pushing yourself, you're sacrificing yourself so much for everyone at work, for your boss, but then paying for it at home personally with pain, and then your family's also suffering. That's just an example of like how we set our floor too low. But the thing is when you want to really actually get to the root cause of your migraines, you're raising your ceiling because you're not just any longer being okay with managing your migraines and relying on medications. You're raising that ceiling so high because you want to get to the root cause, which is going to take some work. It's going to take some effort, but it's also going to allow you to get to a place where you're in a state of like migraine freedom. They don't control you. They don't run your life anymore. And maybe even remission where you don't ever get them again. That's a high ceiling. That's a life absolutely worth living. But if you just raise your ceiling up here and you keep your floor low, so you go from here up to here, you're extending this gap. You're extending the tension. Imagine like pulling on a rubber band. You're causing more tension. And while that is good at times, that's pretty dangerous. That rubber band might snap. You might get burnt out or crash, right? So when we raise our ceiling, we have to raise this floor. But what's most effective is raising your floor as high as possible. Because when your floor is all the way up here, it's not very hard to get to this really high goal, the ceiling that you now have of becoming migraine free or in remission. Hopefully that's a little helpful to understand the concept of both raising your floor and raising your ceiling. I'm going to talk a bit about what things could fall under your floor and how to raise it. But first I want to talk briefly, we need to understand the difference between triggers and what I call dysregulators. So this idea of having triggers like food and lights and sounds and weather changes, pressure changes, temperature changes, and on and on and on, when we call them triggers, we are essentially setting up a story in our head that these have control over us, that I can't handle these things. Whereas when we call them dysregulators, which they truly are, everything in life is a trigger or a dysregulator. It just is information and your nervous system's processing it. And so too much of anything is a dysregulator. But when you call it a dysregulator, you are in control because you can basically decide how you respond to the dysregulators and how much they actually affect you. And so you can handle pressure changes, you can handle weather changes, you can handle lights, sounds, stressful times, even like arguments. Anything when it's looked at as a dysregulator, it's not so damaging or fear inducing. And when you have that, you're no longer living on eggshells going through life, worrying about what's going to trigger me. Instead, you say, what could be dysregulating me? And then what can I do to counteract that? To either stay above it and not be pulled down and then it cause a migraine, or maybe I just stay regulated so that it doesn't affect me, almost like I have a shield and it bounces off of me. So that is the understanding here. And this is going to be helpful as I come back to raising the floor. So I want to give a couple examples of what maybe your old floor, a low floor, looks like. This is when you are pretty reactive to your migraines in your life, whereas raising your floor, you become proactive, and this is how you start to prevent migraines and start to become migraine free. So for example, when your floor is really low down here, maybe you can't even see it, that's when you're checking your phone as soon as you wake up in the morning, and also checking your phone, staying on your phone, maybe all the way up until the point that you fall asleep in bed. Those are extreme dysregulators. And someone that really wants to get to migraine freedom doesn't do those things. If they really want to get to here, they've got to raise their floor so much that the phone stays in another room, or at least out of reach, but it stays in the other room. And when they wake up, maybe they get a little bit of water. Maybe they exercise before they even touch their phone, maybe before they even look at their email. Another example would be, migraine really loves unpredictability and inconsistent patterns or schedules or routines, right? So if you want to get rid of them to be migraine free, you need predictable, consistent patterns. And so maybe in the past you would sleep 6 hours on the weekdays with disrupted sleep, but then on the weekends you would sleep 10 hours. The brain doesn't like that. Whereas your new floor, when you raise it to get up here to migraine freedom, you need 7 hours, maybe 8 hours every single night. You wake up at the same time on Saturday as you do on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Or if we look at like our diet and what we're eating, maybe your current low floor is that I eat when I have time. You eat through your lunch break at work, or maybe you don't eat at all. And that causes like your blood sugar to be really irregular and then causes your nervous system to be panicked and on alert. Or big floor that I hear from so many people is pushing through. So their current floor is that they sacrifice themselves, their future self, and their health and their pain, and even their family for other people. So they'll push through going to events. They'll push through at work. They'll push through going to see friends, even on a tough day. And that ends up setting the next 4 days so much worse off. And then they lose their own personal time. They have to give up hobbies because they're sacrificing themselves and pushing through at work, getting these projects done on time, just so that, whereas raising your floor to become migraine free at this high ceiling, you have to be able to say no to people and realize that saying no doesn't end the world. Most people are actually okay with you saying no. They're actually almost thankful because now they have permission to say no when they need to as well. And this whole world stops just always pushing through. And there's this concept that I always tell my clients that we have to slow down to speed up. And when we stop pushing through and we start saying no and setting boundaries, maybe working less in the evenings or on the weekends, you will actually gain back time in your future. You will actually have less migraines. You'll have more capacity, more energy, where you can work 10-hour days if you need to, but not in pain, not struggling through it. And so this is where we start to say no, we set boundaries, really raising that floor and putting ourselves first so that our future self has a higher capacity and we actually can get to migraine freedom. Whereas when you want to be migraine free and you're down here sacrificing yourself, pushing through, too much tension, you'll never get up here. But if you slow down for a bit, raise your floor, stop doing so much, start saying no, start saying, I can't make it tonight, or no, thank you, or I can't get that project done that fast. It's going to be so much easier to get to your goal up here. And when you're then at your ceiling, at this migraine freedom, anything's possible. You can work so much more. I went from only being able to work part-time 4 hours in the clinic to raising my floor by slowing down, actually quit my job for about 2 months. And then now here I am, started a business, actually changing people's lives. And I work about 12 hours a day, all on computer screens, helping people around the world. I can handle all of it now. It's all because I slowed down to speed up. I raised my floor. Two others really focused on migraine that come to mind is treating your pain once it's gotten out of hand, once the pain's gotten really bad, versus addressing the early signs, what we call prodrome symptoms. When you are proactive and you address it when the beast is kind of small, or the example I always love is if we keep shoving things into the closet, not actually cleaning the problem, getting rid of stuff from our house, that closet eventually overflows and it's a disaster and we hate it. But if we just clean up every week rather than shoving things in the closet, we take care of things early on, life is so much easier. We never have these big crashing burnout type of sessions and then these 4-day migraines, or maybe we get stuck in this constant migraine mode. And the last thing that I would recommend almost every single person when your floor is down here is allowing yourself to be identified as I have migraines or these migraines control me. A raising your floor identity would be I am working to get rid of these migraines, or I used to have migraines, or migraines used to control me, but they no longer do. We have to change who we are before our symptoms go. I talk about this one with my clients often. There's this common mistake or belief in our heads that says, when my symptoms or my migraines get better, I will be happier. I will become a better person, or I will be less angry and irritable. But the opposite is actually true. That doesn't work out very often. Some people are really lucky and they get that kind of miracle lucky experience, but for most people, probably 95, maybe 99% of the population, we have to change who we are first and then our symptoms will change. So I have to start practicing being happier, finding the positives, being optimistic, staying calm and regulated in stressful moments, and then my migraines will go away. Nothing changes until you change. And so wrapping up, just giving an example of a past client. So in our coaching program, we are trying to get people transformational results. And that means in rapid time, like some people going into remission in days or 2 weeks, right? And to do that, you can't just make gradual improvements. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to stop watching TV, or I'm going to wake up, at 6 a.m. every single day. You've got to make drastic changes. And a big example, and a really great example would be Nora, one of our clients this past week. So she just came out and said, I have finally recognized that I've had my floor too low in relationships. And one came down to a friend that was kind of toxic and I think just really pulling her down, keeping her down in a more dysregulated state than what her nervous system can handle when she has a migraine condition. And so what she came to realize after I was asking her some questions is that she realized that this relationship probably is associated with probably 100 migraines a year for her. And she's had this relationship for years. And so when we really broke it down, she started to realize that this relationship was costing her almost 100 days of her life every single year, which is insane when you think about it. But she was suffering for a full day with these migraines. Yeah, she was pushing through at work, but she wasn't happy. She wasn't enjoying the work. And then after work, she was spending days on the couch or in bed with an ice pack on her head. Whereas now she's out walking, she's going to concerts, she's going to hockey games and all of this fun stuff, traveling to other countries to see her daughter's wedding, where she couldn't do that before when her floor was so low. And she has this really big goal of wanting to get to migraine remission and be free of her migraines controlling her life. And she finally realized that this relationship's got to go because it's just causing too much dysregulation. It's not triggering her. It's just dysregulating her. And she has two options. She can either keep the relationship and just try really hard every day to stay very regulated, stay above this person that's pulling them down, Or she can just raise her floor and let go of the relationship. And then there's no longer this huge amount of dysregulation in her life so much. And because of this, she's going to gain back hundreds of days of her life every single year by having less migraines, allowing her to do so much more, pursue her passions, actually take part in the hobbies that she wants. And now, was that a hard conversation to break up with a friend of many years, if not decades? Sure. Raising the floor, like I said at the very beginning of this video, is that it is one of the hardest things to do. But I also said it is the best, the fastest way to start to improve your migraines. It's by raising your floor, removing these dysregulators that are pulling you down and holding you back in life. So I wanted to finish off with 2 questions for you to contemplate. I just think when we start asking better questions to ourselves and to others, our lives can really change. So I wanted to end this video by just asking you, what's currently below your floor that you are still doing? What's below your minimum standard? And secondly, if you were to raise your ceiling up here, if you really want to get rid of these migraines, how high are you going to have to raise that floor? And what now is below this new floor in your life? So even your minimum standard, the things that were okay in the past, what's now below this new floor if you really want to change your life and get rid of these migraines? And if you want to be extra bold and get the most out of this, answer those questions in the comments below. There's tons of neuroscience education and evidence that says that when we get our thoughts out of our head, we get them on paper or we say them out loud. 1, our brain rewires deeper, stronger neuronal connections, and we're more likely to commit and follow through on our change. In this situation, on raising your floor to get to this new goal, this new ceiling in your life. So that's what I have for you today. If you want to see more videos like this video, subscribe somewhere down below so that YouTube gives you more of this type of content from me and from others out there trying to help and change the world. Take care.